Okay, we're underway. Want to welcome you to this regular meeting of the Helotes City Council. It's September 26, 2019, and we're underway at 7 p.m. Before we get started on the agenda, we do have a number of scouts with us tonight, which we always enjoy seeing. And the first ones that I'll introduce are from PAC 2211. They meet at Forest Hills Presbyterian Church, and they're working on their Building a Better World merit badge. And so if you would stand up, Tristan Chavez, stand up, there you go. Nathan Purcell, okay, Nathan. Joshua Herman, and Nicholas Anya, okay, got it. Welcome, guys. And I was telling your scoutmaster that if you stay for the whole meeting, and when we get done, if you have any questions, the council members and I will try and help you out and answer those questions. Appreciate you being here. And then we have from Troop 374, Emily Kodosky, and she's here working on her Citizenship in the Community badge, and they meet at Christ Fellowship Church. So welcome. And she's in an all-girl troop, which is kind of cool. I was telling John, her dad, it's too bad though, because the girls can't show up the boys, but they evidently do things together anyway, so the girls can still show up the boys in scouting. So thanks again for being here. Okay, we'll get on with our agenda. And first up, we have the invocation. Tonight, Councilmember Fredericks will do the invocation, and then we'll have the pledges to the American and Texas flag. So if you would please stand for the invocation and pledges.
In thanksgiving to our Almighty God, let us be grateful for his benefits and humbly implore his protection and favor. Let us acknowledge with grateful hearts the many and significant blessings he has afforded upon us and our city. Please grant us the wisdom, justice, and charity to make the proper decisions here tonight. We ask that you grant us proper counsel and guidance to do what is best for our community. May you bless and watch over those who are in service to our community, and may you bless each of us here with peace and joy. We pray in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Okay, next up we have some recognition in the form of a proclamation for our fire department. And so we'll handle that. And our fire chief, Scott Moreland, is here tonight.
Mayor, do you want?
Chief Moreland's been with us for a couple of years now and done a fine job with the fire department. He came to us from Corpus Christi. He was a captain down there and was one of 5 applicants that we sifted through. Well, we sifted through a bunch, but wound up with 5 that we interviewed, and Scott won the prize. And as far as I know, he's happy being here, so he's usually smiling. But anyway, this proclamation is for National Fire Prevention Week this year. It says, Office of the Mayor, Helotes, Texas, proclamation. National Fire Prevention Week 2019. Not every hero wears a cape. Plan and practice your escape. That's their line for the year. Whereas the City of Helotes Fire Department, firefighters, and paramedics are committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting the City of Helotes, And whereas fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at greatest risk from fire, and whereas this year's Fire Prevention Week campaign, Not Every Hero Wears a Cape, Plan and Practice Your Escape, works to educate everyone about the small but important actions they can take to keep themselves and those around them safe. And whereas Fire Prevention Week also serves to remind us that half of home fire deaths result from fires reported between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m., when most people are asleep, and almost 60% of reported home fires resulted from fires in homes with no smoke alarms or with non-working smoke alarms. Now therefore, I, Thomas A. Schoolcraft, on behalf of the members of the City Council, and by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the City of Helotes, Texas, do hereby proclaim October 6th through 12th, 2019 as National Fire Prevention Week, and urge all the people of the City of Helotes to be aware of their surroundings, look for available ways out in the event of a fire or other emergency, respond when the smoke alarm sounds by exiting the building immediately, and to support the City of Helotes Fire and Emergency Services during Fire Prevention Week 2019. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused this seal to be affixed. Congratulations. Thank you. Next up is our open session, our citizens to be heard. We have anybody sign up, Selena?
No, Mayor, we don't.
Okay. Nobody signed up to speak, so we will go on to the consent agenda. And for those of you who are not familiar with this type of meeting, a consent agenda is a grouping together of multiple items for the agenda. And the intent is, they're considered routine city business by the staff and by me. And the intent is to have a motion and a second to approve all of them at the same time. However, if a member of the council has a question they'd like to ask and we can answer it briefly, we'll handle it that way. Otherwise, they can ask to have that item removed from the consent agenda and pulled down to the individual item part of the agenda. And tonight, the consent agenda items are 4 through 11. And I would ask members of the council, do you have any questions or a request to pull an item for discussion in another part of the agenda?
I have a question on number 7.
Okay?
There's the names of the individuals for the brokers and dealers. It says Loop Capital, which is an entity, then it has a person's name. And then
Raymond.
Yes,
That's an entity as well.
that is an entity. And Stifel Nicholas is also an entity?
Yes, they're all financial institutions.
They're institutions. Okay, that's what I was trying, I know Wells Fargo, I know Loop Capital, but those two look like someone's names. and I didn't know that.
Yeah, Raymond James is kind of like
They were a long time ago.
Edward Jones, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Oh, I see. I would, if this had Edward Jones, I just didn't know that. Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Anybody else? Yeah.
I have a question on number 9. It's the restricted funds, the new ones. It's on page 4 or 5. The local truancy prevention and diversion fund, I guess, and the municipal jury. From what I'm reading, the funds collected are going to go into the truancy prevention and diversion fund.
Yes.
Who runs that? The city or the state?
Municipal court.
Municipal court? And what do they do with that money? I mean, to be used for municipal court for their employees or
No.
for a program?
So-
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Because they're new funds.
Yeah, so this would be, if some, for truancy prevention, obviously related to kids that are truant in school. And also the municipal jury goes to fees that are related to putting on a jury, whether it's the cost to bring them in, postage for mailings, all of those sorts of
Okay.
things.
Okay.
And these are required by the state. So these are brand new. A consolidated fee was put into place, which again was a part of the court. And they basically lumped the court technology, the court security, and they created local truancy and municipal jury.
I guess my final question on that, of those two things was, are we going to get the money or is the state getting it? That's my main thing.
These are funds that we will collect.
And they will stay in the city?
Yes.
Okay.
The state gets its portion, but
Yes.
whatever's left goes into this
So the
fund.
state's still getting their portion?
And it's
But we
usually
have to do the work?
what's left.
Okay.
Well, yes, of course.
Okay.
That's the way they all are.
Okay, I don't
And,
understand that.
and what's left behind in Helotes is typically a very nominal part of the fee, just like all the rest of them.
Once again, they strike again. Anyway,
It's a mandated fee.
okay,
and,
thank you, Rick. And then I had something about number 11, please.
Okay.
First of all, I'm not going to miss his ugly mug at all. I mean, no, I'm just kidding. Jim, I hate to see you go. I really enjoyed the time with you on council. I enjoyed campaigning with you. I think you've been a breath of fresh air when we needed a breath of fresh air on council. And I, for one, will miss you a lot. And good luck with I know family always comes first.
Thank you.
So I'm going to miss you a bunch, okay? And good luck with your future, with you and Pat's future.
I think what he's saying is you're a breath of fresh air, which offsets him being on council.
Okay.
I'm just guessing. I don't know.
Thank you, Jim.
And I second that and give you kudos. Anything else? Okay, then I'd look for a motion and a second to approve consent agenda items 4 through 11.
Mayor, if you don't consider it a conflict of interest, I'll move for adoption of item 4 through 11.
Very good. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion from Meadows and a second from Fredericks. So no discussion being required. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Consent agenda items 4 through 11 are approved. Okay, that takes us to items for individual consideration, and first up on item 12 is a discussion of an action on the appointment of Alan R. Holmes to the City Council, Council Member Place 1, to take the place of Councilmember Meadows, who is resigning effective September 30th, and the appointment of Alan Holmes will be effective October 1. Alan, if you'd like to come up to the podium. And I put in your packet, Alan first approached us to serve the city on the Board of Adjustment, and he and I met, as I usually do with new volunteers that submit applications, and when I looked at his resume or brief history of his experience, I suggested that he serve on the Economic Development Corporation, and he was a little apprehensive about that, but thought about it for a week or so, and then came back and said that he would like to serve on the Economic Development Corporation. We'd send him all the bylaws and articles of incorporation of that particular group. And so he's been on there since, my mind's blank, it was November, wasn't it? Let me look here, get this right. October, oh, wait a minute.
I should know, Mayor, but I don't.
November 8th, yeah, I remembered November of 2018. And so he's has had a perfect attendance record, and so I'm here to recommend to council that we appoint Alan to the council and see what happens. So if we can have a motion and a second.
May I say something first?
Oh, yeah,
Mayor?
sure.
I'd like to blame Councilmember Massey for me standing here. She posted a notice in the Nextdoor site announcing that the city was accepting applications for several committees and
I remember
corporation
that,
seats
yeah.
in Helotes, and I accepted one, so it's your fault.
No comment.
I did come here. I definitely wanted on the BOA, but the mayor told me there was not a position available. I'm not exactly sure he was telling me the truth when he said that, but anyway, I did accept a position on the EDC, and it's been very, pleasant. I've learned a lot of things in a short period of time, and I've learned to watch our money because the mayor is apt to reach out and grab money from the EDC for some, and I will say for some great projects that were done by the city with EDC funds. And we look for more to happen, at least my last few weeks on the EDC. So some great projects coming on. So, Mr. Mayor, I'm done.
Okay, so if we can have a motion and a second to discuss and take action on this appointment.
Mayor, I make a motion to discuss and take action on number 12.
I have a motion from Byes. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second from Massey. Bert, it's your motion, so you're up first.
Well, I'm the EDC liaison, and I get to listen and watch Mr. Holmes firsthand, and he's been a great addition to the EDC. As a matter of fact, I think the EDC is going to miss you. They really.
I like to think so.
Yeah, and you were a good asset. Mr. Holmes also, as far as I look out into sometimes our sparse audience out there, and he's always sitting back there listening and watching and learning, I think, to what we're doing up here on council. He's also, I've seen him at events around the city. He was over at the pedestrian bridge numerous times when it was being installed. He's also there whenever the concrete was being installed. So I believe that he really, really is interested in this city. So I agree with his appointment.
Cynthia?
Well, I'm just going to have to say ditto to all of that. And I am very pleased that my announcement on Next Door Neighbor elicited such good response and good people. That's what we're looking for. And I knew that there were people out there who would volunteer if they just knew that they could. And so I'm glad that you did. But again, to reemphasize what Bert says, I've seen you come to our city council meetings, and I think, you know, to one of the best ways to learn to be on the city council is to be on a commission or to be on one of the EDC. You learn how the rules and regulations, and you've learned that very well. And so anyway, thank you, and
Thank you.
very much in favor of this.
Paul?
Ditto, look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Paul.
Jim?
Just welcome, and glad you're going to be on council. I think council strives for trying to do things, well, they not strive, they do things for the good of the city, but they strive to work together on all matters wherever possible. So I encourage you to continue with that idea, but welcome.
Thank you, Jim, and good luck to you, and thank you for your service.
Alex?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Holmes, welcome, appreciate it, and thank you so much for be willing to step up and serve your community. That speaks a great deal about you.
Thank you, Alex.
Bert, any follow-up?
You do know your salary, right?
Unfortunately,
You do?
yes, I
Okay,
do.
I just wanted to make sure he knew that, sir.
There is a chance for a raise every year, though.
You know what percentage, sir?
That's all I had, sir.
Okay, Cynthia, anything else? Paul? Nothing from you guys? Okay, thanks. Then we'll call the question on this. All in favor of approving the appointment of Alan R. Holmes to City Council Place 1, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Congratulations, Alan. Next up, we have a discussion of an action on the appointments to the Economic Development Corporation of Place 1, Phyllis Jackson, Place 3, John Kodosky. And we had one resignation from the current EDC board, and then one of the members has moved out of the city, and so was not eligible for reappointment. And so that left us these two vacancies. And first up, Phyllis, if you would come on up and introduce yourself. And we'll see if they have any questions. Phyllis and I worked together back in 2002 through about 2005 on the Municipal Complex Grounds Improvement Committee.
No. You worked for me. I didn't work for you.
That's right, she was chair. But I had to do all the reports to the council. I don't remember how that all worked, but that committee was instrumental in making this complex a city park, and we're on the Texas Birding Trail even on the map as a result of that from those efforts. So we had a lot of fun together, and one of her passions was a playground here at the park. And when we started that back in, I think it was 2008.
Long time ago.
Phyllis was out there, and I remember the first piece of equipment we put up was that little climbing platform, and they had 4 big holes dug, and she was out there. I said, hey, you know, it'd make a cool picture if you get in one of those holes. And dadgummit if she didn't do it. I've got a
And they
picture.
couldn't get me out.
Yeah. Said, well, have a nice afternoon, but all you see was her head and her arms. So Phyllis, I'm so glad you decided to accept my invitation to be on the EDC board. I think you'll be a great asset.
Thank you.
So did you have anything you'd like to say to council?
Well, I too am wondering where I'm going to pick up my paycheck,
Yeah, right.
just like I did the time before.
You'll be in line behind Alan and the rest of us. Okay. Anything? That's it? Looking for a
good.
paycheck.
Just
Sorry.
waiting for a paycheck.
I forgot to mention that. None. Okay, if you have a seat, and John, come on up. I met John several years ago. His son's an Eagle Scout, and the project that they completed was the Ability Swing out here at the playground for people who are in wheelchairs. And it's been used by a lot of people, and I've actually seen some folks out there with wheelchairs through the years. But it was one of our first Eagle Scout projects and a great asset, and that's how I got to know John. And when these vacancies came up, I called him and asked him if he'd be interested in serving, and he jumped at it, so we appreciate it. Anything you'd like to say to council?
No, I'm very honored to be here. It's an honor to serve. I'm excited to be part of the city and the community. I really enjoy living in Helotes, so it's a real honor for me to be up here with all of you.
Great, well, we're glad to have you. Council, you have any questions? Cynthia, on either one of these? Paul? No, sir. Bert?
You know how to install a water park?
Not really, but I live right down the street, so I'll help. Like I can bring cold water and stuff. and,
Okay.
That's all I had.
Alex?
No, sir, thank you.
Jim?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks, John.
Thank you, folks.
Okay, we can go ahead and act on both of these appointments with one motion and one second, if that's agreeable to you guys, rather than voting on them individually. So we'll just include both as part of the motion. So if I can have a motion and a second.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we discuss and take action on item 13 as written.
So we have a motion from Fredericks. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Meadows. No question, no discussion being necessary. We'll call the question. All in favor of appointing Phyllis Jackson to place 1 and John Kodosky place 3 of the Helotes Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. John, Phyllis, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
You report for duty the 3rd Wednesday of October.
I'll be there.
Okay. Next up, item 14, approval of a resolution approving an agreement for management services between the City of Helotes and the City of Helotes Economic Development Corporation. The reason we move this down into the items with individual consideration is it dawned on me earlier this week, or I guess last week, that we hadn't really looked at the numbers since the EDC moved out of City Hall, and we lowered their fee to $5,400 annually for the services that we provide, which is mainly our city treasurer handling the payroll and the bookkeeping for the EDC. And then they handle their own attorney's fees, but we do have miscellaneous fees here at City Hall, and then the city administrator's time for being involved as the executive director. But just the city treasurer's time, and we pulled an estimate, actual time involved, and this year it's been $5,528.75. So I just wanted to make you all aware that we're actually spending more than we're taking in for the services that we provide. And so I wanted to open it up for your consideration and discussion to see if you wanted to raise the fee to the EDC this year, or just keep it in mind and do it next year. What would happen if you decide to increase it to cover at least the negative on the fiscal part of it? we just send that back to the EDC, and they'd adjust their budget with a budget adjustment, and then it would be nominally here. So,
Can you repeat the figures again?
yeah, I'll pass it down there.
Okay.
A little over 5,500, but there's some other fees in there, so just
That's
wanted.
just for the treasurer? I mean, that's just for the,
Yeah, you see it there. That's Tabby's time to do the payroll for Glenn and the other stuff that she does. And that's just the city treasurer.
Mayor,
And then Rick could probably answer any other question.
did we receive that chart? Because I don't see it.
No, I forgot to run copies. Well, I can have Selena run copies, or we'll just pass it around.
You have totals on here?
Yeah, total for the treasurer.
But then what about the other fees?
We didn't run those numbers.
We don't want, we want to include them?
I would, but we just come up with a number.
Do we have to do this today?
No, we could postpone
Can we
it.
postpone it till
Sure.
we get the numbers? I would, sorry, I don't know if I can say this, but
Well, that's okay. No, what we'll do.
not a
y'all look at
discussion
that.
and action,
We
it's
need
just
a motion
approval.
and a second to discuss it, and if you want to postpone it, I don't see a problem doing that.
do you want me to speak?
Yeah, go
Okay,
ahead,
I'm-
make a
in
motion.
my okay, I make a motion that we discuss and take action, even though that's not what the agenda item says. Okay? That we discuss, take action on number 14?
That's what it is.
Okay. In my mind, if that's just the city secretary's amount, which is above what we're going to pay them, I mean, what they're going to pay us, I think we need to see the whole picture.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I would like to postpone it and get the total amount.
Okay, go ahead and make the motion, and then we'll get back to the postponement, if that's what you want to do. We'll get a second. So you made the motion?
Oh,
Do we
I'm
have a
sorry.
second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion from Byes, a second from Blue. And I apologize for that. I just thought about that and had those numbers run. We hadn't really taken the time to run the rest of them. Any discussion, or you want to go ahead and amend your motion to
May I
just
ask a
postpone?
question?
Yes.
How is that going to affect, don't we have to vote on their budget for the next year? How is that going to affect the budget?
It would just be a budget adjustment on their budget. It'd go back to them when you all decide. There's no problem
We can
postponing.
still,
Yeah,
okay.
we
All
can
right.
postpone it.
be significantly.
I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know.
Okay.
We'll look at the numbers and bring them back. I just wanted you all to be aware of it.
No, that's, I'm glad.
You don't see it going over $10,000, do
I
you?
wouldn't think so, no.
Okay. But I still, in my mind, I would like to postpone it.
Yeah,
Well, are we discussing, as far as the motion is to discuss and possibly take action, I'd like to see us at least on a break-even basis, as far as what we're charging, or what we're being charged, or what
right.
the fees we're using. So postponement will be a method to get that done.
Correct. So we'll postpone to the next meeting.
Yes, sir.
You want to make that amendment? Did you want to say anything? No. I kind of lost track of who's.
Well,
who's
I'm sorry, I didn't know everybody had spoke. I would like to amend the motion to say that we postpone item number 14 until our next council meeting.
talking. Okay. Yeah, and Paul, you want to second that?
Yes.
Okay. So the motion is now to postpone item 14 until our next meeting. Any other discussion?
No.
Anybody want to say anything? Okay. All in favor of postponing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries, and we've postponed item 14 to our next meeting. Okay, that takes us to 15, discussion of and action on a request by Steve Buscher for a waiver of penalties and interest paid by him to Bear Appraisal District or the tax assessor collector. And the backup information is in there, and they did say that the error was on their part, and they're recommending that we authorize them to refund that the penalties and interest on there, is the way I remember it. So if we can have a motion and a second to take action on this.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we discuss and take action on item 15.
I have a motion from Fredericks. Do you have a second?
I'll second. I'll go ahead.
Second from Massey. Paul, you have any discussion on this?
No, I mean, it looks like he, the tax assessor's office did make a mistake. He acted in good faith as soon as he found the mistake, so I see no reason to penalize him any further.
Okay, Cynthia?
Yeah, I don't understand on that one page, the actual amount, because it says amount of 3307 penalty paid. What does that mean?
Which page?
0, on the first page of the backup.
Oh, okay.
What does that mean?
The 3307 is referring to the
Right.
code section,
That's,
3307 is the code.
yeah, of the property
And,
tax code.
and who's, it says paid, 0, so nothing's been paid by by who?
Steve Busher paid 6854 and 1142. And so this would be, actually, he hasn't paid that. This would be waiving those fees from being paid by him.
Okay, it just looks, it's very confusing to me. So he hasn't paid and he doesn't want to pay and he shouldn't have to pay, basically, that's.
Correct.
Okay, yeah, no, I agree, so I just was wondering why it was written this way, it made no sense to me.
we could call Albert and see.
Yeah, oh, no, let's not go there.
Jim?
You could make a quick call back.
Yeah, right.
I have no questions, no.
Alex?
No questions, thank you.
Bert?
A lot of paperwork for $80.
Yeah, I know. But hey, it's a matter of principle.
Yep, okay.
No
No,
kidding.
I have no problem.
Okay. Any other discussion? None being heard. We'll call the question. All in favor of approving the request to waive the penalties and interest on this particular item, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. That takes us to item 16, discussion of and action on a resolution approving appropriations for the City of Helotes Economic Development Corporation's fiscal year ending 2020 maintenance and operations, interest and sinking fund, and capital budgets beginning October 1, 2019, and ending September 30th, 2020. So if I can have a motion and a second to discuss and take action on this resolution, please.
Mayor, I make a motion to discuss, take action on 16.
I have a motion from Byes. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Meadows. Bert, it's your motion. You're first up.
Well, this is just something we were required to do each year, is that correct?
Yes.
So I'm for it.
Okay, Jim?
No discussion, I'm in favor.
Alex?
Nothing, thank you.
Paul?
No, it's fine.
Cynthia?
I'm fine with it.
Okay. And we'll call the question. All in favor of approving the resolution that in turn approves the appropriations as I read for the EDC, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Item 17, discussion of and action on an ordinance making appropriations for the support of the City of Helotes for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2019, and ending September 30th, 2020. Selena, did you run those numbers?
They've been distributed.
Huh?
They've been distributed.
They have? I do?
Yeah.
It's underneath, I'm sorry.
Oh, really?
Way on the bottom.
Man, it's like magic. And this will, when we take the vote, require a record vote, which is a roll call vote. So if I can have a motion and a second to discuss and take action on this ordinance.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to discuss and take action on 17.
We have a motion from Byes. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second from Massey. So Bert, you're up.
Okay, once again, as I've said the whole time, I am in favor of this. I think it's the right thing to do for our employees. That's all I have.
Okay. This is pertaining to the whole budget.
Yeah.
Okay. Cynthia?
17.
Yeah, I'm a little confused by all the different things that we're going to be discussing regarding the
Oh, I was
budget.
on the
Why
wrong
we're
one.
discussing this one first without discussing the things separately. Like, for example, number 18 to me should have come before it, and so should number 20.
It-
I don't understand why we're discussing passing a budget first before,
Because that's the way the state code requires. You can't approve the tax rate without approving the budget first. Rick, if you'd pick up on that, anything else? This is the order it has to be according to the
Yeah,
local
we've
government
always
code.
approved the budget before the tax rate, and that is required by my reading of state law. That being said, with regard to the TMRS ordinance, that was just placed after the budget, but that could certainly be discussed earlier if y'all wanted to.
But the budget presupposes the 35 cents per 100 evaluation and all that, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Then I'm against it.
If you would like to allow me to suspend the rules, if no one has an objection, we can move 18, move to act on 18 before we go to act on 17. It's just that 17 has to be acted upon before the tax rate can. But this was just added in there. So if there's no objections, we'll suspend the rules and discuss, take action and discuss 18, and then we'll come back and pick up where we have with 17. There should not be anything wrong with that. So if we'll go to 18, Cynthia, would you like to make the motion? Or anyone?
I would like,
You want to make the motion?
I thought we were doing 18. I apologize. I thought we would had to do that one before that. I agree with what you're saying.
Okay.
I thought we were supposed to do that. Okay.
No, that doesn't
Okay.
matter.
I think, I just
Yeah.
get the recording. I think this is the right thing to do for our.
Let me get a second.
Okay.
So Buys made the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Meadows. Okay, Bert.
Okay, once again, I think this is the right thing to do for our employees. I think in the long run, it'll benefit them immensely. That's all I have to say.
Okay, Jim?
I'm in favor. I know there's been discussion on both sides, and I respect both sides of that discussion. Weighing it out one against the other, I think I'm more in favor of it than against it, so I would push that we move in favor of it.
Alex?
Having had lots of discussion already, I won't add to that tonight, but I am also in favor of the proposal.
Cynthia?
I remain opposed to this proposal. I think it's bad for the city, and not as great as everyone thinks for the employees.
Paul?
A little apprehensive, but I think I'm coming down on for this. I'm still for this.
Okay. Bert, any follow-up?
No, sir.
Jim?
No, sir.
Nothing? Alex?
No, sir.
Cynthia, anything else? Paul? We're good? Okay, then we'll call the question, and a yes vote or an aye vote will be to approve this ordinance, which will increase the rate of deposits from 6% to 7% to the Texas Municipal Retirement System. In other words, the employee's contribution will go from 6 to 7, and the city's match will remain at a 2 to 1 for that extra 1%. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
Nay.
We have a vote of 4 to 1, with the nay vote being Councilmember Massey. Okay, now we'll pick up item 17. We already have a motion and a second. Councilmember Buys made the motion, and Councilmember Massey made the second. So Bert, would you like to open the discussion on the budget, the new budget numbers that you received? And really, there's no substantial changes as far as I'm aware of. Rick did go back and include the 1% y'all just approved in the numbers. And as he stated, he also approved or included, rather than using the 34.5 cents per 100 valuation on the property tax, we took it back to the 35 cents as it's been for the last 6 years. And so those numbers are in this budget. So Bert, any discussion?
No, like I've been saying the last 3, 4, 5 meetings, I am still in favor of keeping our ad valorem tax rate at what it is right now, at the 0.35.
Okay. No comments on anything else in the
No,
budget?
sir.
Okay. Cynthia?
I'm still very disappointed in against the budget for the reason of not being able to lower the tax rate. I think we should have. It was, and again, I would talk about this on number 20, but I guess I'll talk about it now because it has to do with this budget. We're using the 35 cent per 100 valuation for this budget. I think that this is an opportunity for us to have lowered the tax rate for our citizens. Instead of lowering their tax rate or lowering their taxes by $19, we're going to be raising them by $48. Now, I'm saying 48 because the average house here is $350,000. So the number that was given, 19, it is going to raise people's taxes by $19 if they have a $100,000 home. But since people tend, and like I said, the average home is $350,000. So it's going to raise, I just want our citizens to know that this city council is going to be voting to raise your taxes by $48 average, rather than lowering it by $19, which they could have, which we could have, and still do the things that they wanted to do in this budget. Still give the 7%, which I'm against, but there was money to do that, and still pay for this vehicle that, or this police thing that's needed. Anyway, I just want our citizens to know that this council does not want to lower your taxes, they want to raise them. There you go.
Paul?
I just appreciate all the work that y'all do on the budget. Appreciate it.
Thanks. It's mostly Rick
Thank you.
with my guidance,
I'm sure.
harassing him. Jim?
Mr. Mayor, just for clarification for the record, we are keeping the tax rate at what it was previously, correct?
Actually, that'll be item 20. So approving the budget with that number in here does not lock you into, when you get to item 20, still being able to lower it or keep it where it is at 35 cents a hundred.
The 35 cents is consistent numbers, what I'm getting at.
Yes, it's been that way for 6 years.
And that's the point I wanted to make, is that we are going through a period of properties being increased valuation, and that does increase revenues. There's no question about that. I think it's an applause for the city that we can say we've held the tax rate at the same rate for 6 years. And I would characterize the same situation differently by saying that we're holding the tax rate, and that's my position on it, and I'm in favor of it.
Okay. Alex?
I have no further comments from the previous ones I've said at other meetings.
Okay. Bert, any follow-up?
Sir.
Cynthia, anything else? No. Nothing from you?
No, sir.
Okay. Then we'll call the question, and again, you can discuss the tax rate further when we get to 20 if you want. And this is a record vote, so we will go in order of place.
Mayor.
Councilmember
Mayor,
Meadows?
Mayor, do you want to have the discussion about the police vehicles, the in-car video system?
Oh, yeah. One thing Rick did include on that email with the budget, new budget, is we did receive word from the PD, Police Department, that their co-band cameras that do the video of traffic stops and other things are pretty much at the end of their life.
Right.
And Rick had proposed in this that we do a 5-year note with Frost Bank at a rate of 3.3.
3.34, yeah, 3.34.
Yeah. Which would, over the 5-year period, we just did a rough calculation, about $2,500 in interest. The other option that Cynthia brought up and that, is a viable option is just paying for it, without taking out a 5-year note and doing that like we did the AC retrofit in the fire and police stations. We just took that out of the budget. That would decrease the surplus that we have from 150 more or less to about 75 at some point in time when we do that. So that's an option, and if you would like to consider paying for it rather than taking a 5-year note as is indicated in the budget, then we could handle that with an amendment to the motion to, instead of taking out the 5-year note, pay it out of funds that we have. So, Bert, is that a consideration you'd like to make to amend?
Oh, of course, but I haven't heard a number. What is it?
It's about
50,000, 7,500?
It was in that 74?
74,000.
$74,000?
4,000, yeah.
And that's a safety issue, big time for our police officers, so.
And that's going to be a high number.
And that's going to be a high number?
Yeah,
And then how many cameras are we talking about?
That included 10.
10?
We probably don't need 10, but that's the quote that I was given.
Is
Within the last
this happening because they're old or because they're sitting out in the sun all the time?
No, they're just old,
They're old? How
Yeah,
old were they? 10 years old?
more or less.
Wow.
About
Yeah,
9, 10 years old.
yeah.
So they're seeing their life, okay.
Pretty much.
I like Councilmember Massey's idea of if we have the surplus to pay for it
Yeah,
that
and
way.
these are the cameras that shoot out the front, and then they also catch the back seat. And when the patrol cars come into the parking lot, it automatically uploads to the server.
How soon can you get it done? That needs to be done.
Yeah, well, as soon as the budget's approved and
Pass the resolution
takes
first.
effect, we'll go ahead.
No, I'm
and
for
let 'em-
Councilmember Massey's idea.
Okay. Let's see, Cynthia, you want to second that amendment?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do have a question, though.
Okay.
If I vote for this, then we still have a chance to lower the tax rate. I still
Yes,
have
when you
one
get that.
last-ditch effort.
Oh, when you get to item 20.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
That's
so any comment on the second? I mean, the
I'm
amendment?
I'm fine with the lump sum.
You guys okay with that? Okay,
We're not guys, we're individuals over here.
there you go. We're really going to miss you.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah, right.
Okay, again, this is a record vote then, and we're voting on the amendment to the motion, which is to, rather than take out a 5-year note to pay for the new cameras for the PD vehicles, we'll just take that out of the general fund. And so again, it's a record vote. Councilmember Meadows, place 1, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Blue, place 2.
Aye.
Councilmember Byes, place 3.
Aye.
Councilmember Massey, place 4.
Aye.
Councilmember Fredericks, place 5.
Aye.
Okay, so we have a record vote of 5 ayes, so the budget is approved with the amendment to pay for the cameras out of pocket rather than take out a 5-year note. Okay, that drops us down to item 19, discussion of and action on an ordinance ratifying the adoption of the fiscal year 2019-2020 municipal budgets, raising more revenue from ad valorem property taxes due to increased property valuations and the addition of real property to the tax roll than in the fiscal year 2018-2019 municipal budget. So if we can have a motion and second to discuss and take action.
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion to discuss and take action on 19.
Have a motion from Byes. We have a second.
I'll second that.
Second from Blue. Bert, you're up again.
Once again, I'm for this. I mean, we have to ratify it.
Yep.
It's something we have to do every year, so
Yep.
that's all I have to say.
Alex?
So I'm curious, this is only necessary simply because the total anticipated revenue just is a little bit more by any amount, whether it's a penny or whatever, then we have to have this resolution simply because the amount that is anticipated is going to be higher than last year's. That's it.
Yes.
Nothing to do with tax rates.
No.
Right, nothing. Okay,
No.
thank you, that's all.
It's just the increased revenue due to increased assessed values and new construction. Jim?
No comments.
Paul?
I'm good.
Cynthia?
So even if we lowered the tax rate by the penny or the half a cent, it's still going to raise some revenues, more
Yes.
revenues than last year.
You would have to lower it to the effective tax rate to not have to do this ordinance.
I got you. All right.
You good? Okay, no further discussion. We'll call the question. All in favor of approving the ratification of this ordinance, say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Okay, on item 20, I would just like to preface this, and this is one that always really irritates me. And whoever makes the motion, I would like to call your attention to the back of the agenda form. And you see at the bottom, under suggested motion, this motion must be read exactly as it's written there. That's part of the code. But I would just like to reference some numbers from Texas Municipal League, and they monitor all the bills going through the legislature. And during the 2019 session of the Texas legislature, almost 7,500 bills or significant resolutions were introduced. More than 2,000 of them would have affected Texas cities in some substantial way. In the end, over 1,400 bills or resolutions passed, and were signed into law. More than 300 of those impacted cities in some way, and many of them negatively as far as revenue that we're able to raise. Said the number of city-related bills as a percentage of total bills filed rises every year. 20 years ago, around 17% of the bills filed affected cities in some way. By 2019, that percentage has increased to almost 25%. In other words, almost a quarter of the legislature's work is directed at cities, and much of that work aims to limit municipalities' authority. So it's very interesting to see what's going on in Austin. It seems to be getting worse and worse. And this wasn't the most bills ever filed. That was in 2009 when they passed or filed about 100 more bills than this year. The only difference was about 120 of those were city-related versus 330 this session. So it's interesting information. Okay, getting back to item 20. If someone would like to make the motion by reading from the back of that sheet, then we will go forward with the discussion and action on this item.
Mr. Mayor, I would move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.35 per $100 valuation, which is effectively a 2.56% increase in the tax rate. This motion includes, 1, the adoption of an ad valorem property tax rate for the maintenance and operation expenditures of the city of Helotes at 0.261595 cents per $100 valuation for the tax year beginning January 1, 2019 and ending December 31, 2019, and 2, the adoption of an ad valorem property tax tax rate for the principal and interest payables on interest and sinking debt service expenditures of the city of Helotes at 0.088405 cents per $100 valuation for the tax year beginning January 1, 2019 and ending December 31, 2019.
Thank you. We have a motion from Meadows. Does anyone want to have him repeat that? No? Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
A second from Buys. Jim, it's your motion. You want to open discussion on the tax rate?
I think the dead horse is in the middle of the podium.
Okay.
I don't mean that to you, sir. I meant down below.
I hear you.
And I would stand by what I've said before on this particular issue.
Okay, Bert?
Stand by what I said before. I want to keep the tax rate where it is.
Cynthia?
And I will say it again, we've kept the tax rate at 35%, at 35 cents per 100 valuation for the last 6 years. And every year, the taxes for our citizens continue to be raised because of the property values and the businesses that are coming into Helotes. I think it's wrong for us to just take the money and run every time. I think that our citizens deserve some kind of break, so I am against this.
Paul?
I'm for keeping it at the 35 cents.
Alex?
I'm in favor of the motion as well.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, I would like to just make a comment on this simply because I do it every year, is this whole thing really irritates me, the way the legislature makes us read and present and pass this particular resolution when it says this tax rate will raise more taxes for maintenance and operations than last year's tax rate. That's really a misnomer. It will raise more tax revenue. Mm-hmm. The tax is staying exactly where it has for the last 6 years at 35 cents per 100. And then it says the tax rate will effectively be raised by 7.84% and will raise taxes for maintenance and operations on a $100,000 home by approximately $19.02. And this is simply not true either. Because if you really look at what's happening, the tax rate is staying the same at 35 cents per 100. So the reason the tax revenue is going up is because the values of the properties in the city are being assessed at a higher value by the Bear Appraisal District Typically, they go the maximum 10% increase year to year, and so it has nothing to do with the tax rate. Even though this resolution says that it does, it doesn't. It's all the assessments and therefore the extra revenue. So that being said, no further discussion being asked, we'll call the question. All in favor of approving this resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
Nay.
So we have 4 ayes and 1 no vote, which would be Councilmember Massey.
Mayor, it needs to be a recorded vote.
I thought we said it didn't have to be.
No, it needs to be a roll call vote. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
We didn't have that noted anywhere. Okay. So, we'll do another record vote. So, again, Councilmember Meadows, place 1.
Aye.
Councilmember Blue, place 2.
Aye.
Councilmember Byes, place 3.
Yes.
Councilmember Massey, place 4.
No.
Councilmember Fredericks, place 5.
Yes.
Okay, so we have 4 yes or aye votes and 1 nay or no vote. And that brings us to our last item, item 21, which is discussion of and action on an ordinance establishing and amending fees, costs, and fines charged by the city of Helotes. And basically, this is something that we do every year, and Rick allowed in the budget an increase rounded, I believe, up according to the Consumer Price Index, which was 1.8? About 1.8. And so all of the respective fees on our fee chart went up basically 1.8% with a little rounding factor in there. So if I can have a motion and a second to discuss and take action on this item.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we discuss and take action on 21.
We have a motion from Fredericks. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Got to do it. Okay, we have a second from Meadows. Gosh, the suspense was intense there. Okay, Paul, first up, your motion.
No comments.
No comment? Jim?
For the first time on city council, I have no comments.
Oh, my gosh. Selena, please make a note of that for the permanent record. Alex?
No comments, sir. Thank you.
Cynthia?
You know, these fees, they go up every year. It bothers me, but, so I'm not sure I'm going to vote for it.
Okay. That it?
Yeah.
Bert?
No comment.
That's it? Okay. Any further discussion? Anybody? Okay, then we'll call the question. All in favor of approving this ordinance, establishing and amending fees, costs, and fines, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No.
We have 4 ayes and 1 no vote, Councilmember Massey. And by golly, we have successfully gone through this and approved the budget for the next fiscal year, and we did all that in less than an hour. So we are going to be adjourned, if there are no objections, at 7:58.